He's in Cairns. His son's house has been destroyed in the flood. So Mick's up in Cairns trying to help his son deal with that catastrophe, unfortunately. And he may not be back for a while, depending on how things work out, but apparently it's pretty bad up there. So, I've been pressed into service, and hopefully I still remember how to do it. There's a lot of things I don't remember how to do, but hopefully I can still remember to get us through this meeting. Do we have any visitors? Yes.
Yep. Greg. Nice to meet you.
Greg?
Yes.
Nice to see you, Greg. Anyone else is a visitor?
Ted Brea's my visitor.
Who's that?
Ted Brea.
Ted Brea. Okay. Ted, welcome. Nice to see you. Any birthdays? Yes.
84 last week.
Any other birthdays? I've got to confess to 83 on the 19th of January.
I got to confess to 79 on the 27th of January.
Very good.
We're doing January.
Very good. That's good. We're going down. We're going down.
18th of January, 84.
84.
Good on you, mate.
There we are. Well done. Any other birthdays? No. All right. Now, it's somewhat an unusual meeting today. It's that we've got a double header. We did originally have our Banjo Patterson expert giving us his insights on the man from Snowy River. However, Mick Francis organised Lynn from the Smith family. Morning, Lynn dear. And John Doherty organised Olga, who knows a lot about aged care and looking after the aged members of the population. Not that we've got many of them here today, but it was thought that it might be relevant. So I only discovered this morning that they'd separately organised speakers. So we've got Lynn here, Olga's due later. I spoke to Graham and he very generously said, look, I'll do the man from Snowy River on another occasion and we'll hear from both Lynn and Olga. So there we are. We've got a double header, guys, double header. Now, I haven't got anyone here to mark the roll, so what I thought I might take is any apologies for the record. Any
Les
apologies?
Sterling.
Les Sterling,
Noel Griffiths,
Noel Griffith,
Brian McMahon,
Brian McMahon,
and Will Semler.
Bob Hill,
Robert Urbecker.
Robert Urbecker,
Ron Speechley.
Ron Speechley. Will, is Will here?
No, Will, I give an apology for Will.
For
He's
Will.
not coming, no.
Okay, and then there's an apology from John Doherty, who's away, and from Mick Francis, as I've said, is up in Cairns helping his son in relation to the floods. So that's it for the apologies. I'll just briefly touch on our main areas, but can I just say a few words following on the general forum we had before Christmas, which was, I thought, very productive. And Mick Francis did a good job in preparing us for it and then arranging it, and we got a lot of feedback. So the position is that the committee is it's working its way through the feedback and the material that we've got. I made contact with Probus South Pacific yesterday about it, and they've sent me some material which I've circulated in the committee. So we'll be discussing it further at our next committee meeting next week, and we'll keep members informed of progress. But it was a very worthwhile exercise to have that forum and get that feedback. So we'll keep you all posted about progress. Now, Colin, anything you want to say particularly in relation to your...
Two things. One, the book club is having its first rotation, so I give those members of the book club books out of my green bag down here. And the second is, in the fourth Tuesday in April, I've just booked a cruise down the Maribyrnong. We cruise...
That's if it's not flooded.
Well, you never know. Anyway, we'll get there somehow or another, probably a combination of taxis and other things, and we cruise along the Maribyrnong. I should say that Port Melbourne Provo's doing the same thing after us. Anyway, we're going to do that, and then there's the boathouse nearby on the Maribyrnong Road as it goes over the Maribyrnong, and that's a very good spot for lunch, and we'll go home. So it should be a fantastic venue. Where we alight is the cultural centre for Footscray. And so all sorts of interesting art stuff there. So the whole area is a fantastically interesting area of Melbourne, and it's right close to where the Coode Canal was constructed in about 1890. So it's really a major engineering and port area of Melbourne, because that area was probably the first port of Melbourne. So there you are.
Right.
Interesting time.
Look forward to it. Our very careful treasurer, how are our funds?
Well, we've got $990 in the bank. We've had a deposit of $104 during that month, and we paid $301 for Bruce for all his efforts, and so $990 left.
And
petty cash, we've got $139.
so Bert will need to start looking at this year's subscription, won't we, soon?
Yep.
Then we'll have to fix that, probably do that at our annual general meeting, and then we'll proceed from there. I think there's been a slight increase in the accreditation fee with Probus South Pacific. So just on notice, guys, we'll be looking to you for your subscriptions in the near future. David has pretty well finished his duties as almoner, as I understand it. But I don't know whether, David, there's anything you want to add at this point?
No.
Can I just take the opportunity again to, on behalf of us all, and we could do this with an acclamation, extend our thanks to David for the incredible job that he has done as almoner of this club. I mean, it's just been outstanding the way in which he has kept in touch with our members who may have had some issues or been struggling through health, whatever, kept us informed and kept them informed with what's happening in the club. And it's one of the most vital roles that we have in our club, and David, we are forever grateful for your efforts as almoner. Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Now, Uncle Gary, I know you're sort of not in charge of excursions, but you're still in charge of excursions and lunches. Anything? We'd like a few things to say?
Yeah, just a few things to say. I don't need the microphone, I'll just yell.
Okay.
They'll probably hear me, they call me loudmouth. I'd just like to start with wishing everybody that I haven't spoken to a Happy New Year, and hope we have a safe and healthy one for 2024. And I hope we get people together to have our outings going again. Tuesday the 23rd of January is the President's Barbecue at Springthorpe Village, 8 Pottage Circuit McLeod at 12 p.m. The cost is $15. It has to be paid today in an envelope, the ones that are going. Please make sure you pay today, or else I won't be catering for you and there'll be nothing for you to eat. Okay? You'll need to bring with you a plate, fork, knife, glass and a little light refreshment. All else will be supplied on the day. Wednesday the 28th of February, we are joining the other clubs for a bus trip to Ulwyn Gardens for a tour and then on to the Grand Hotel for lunch. That's in Yarra Glen. The cost is $40 per person. This is for the bus only. You pay for everything else on the day. The pickup in Hardiman Street in Bundoora Park in Plenty Road at 9:30 a.m. and return approximately 3:30. Please put your names on the list and the money in an envelope for payment today or next month. It has to be in because we've got to pay the bus, okay? As you've probably read in the agenda of the newsletter that I sent out a thing, we're having trouble with the meals here. And I have spoken to them downstairs this morning and they've got a new idea coming through which has to go through the manager that's not here at the moment. But what's going to happen is hopefully that when you come in of a morning, if you're staying for lunch, you will pay for it at the counter downstairs. Okay? They'll pay for your meal downstairs at the counter. I will arrange the meals that we have. They'll still be half and half like they normally get, but they'll be downstairs, okay? You pay downstairs on the way in to stay for lunch because nobody's putting their name on the list. I had 13 and I've got 18 now that are staying for lunch. So if there's anyone here that's staying for lunch that hasn't got their name on the list, you'll have to go downstairs and tell them because it's just silly what's happening at the moment. Okay, also, I think I've mentioned this before, we are cordially invited to join Warringal Heidelberg on their club meeting on Tuesday the 20th of February 2024. They are having Belinda from Group Link Travel to give a talk on the trip she has arranged for the year. The time is 10 a.m. There will be an email sent to the clubs for this year sometime. I was talking to their president the other week and she's asked if we could announce it, that if anyone's like to come along, you're welcome to come along and listen to Belinda on the talks, what she does. Okay, everyone. Okay, have a good day. Thanks very much. Yeah, okay.
Okay, thanks, Gary. Well, as I've said, we did have Graham lined up for the man from Surrey River, but we're very fortunate to have Lynn Gear with us to talk about the Smith family. I would think most people would be pretty familiar with the Smith family. It's does an outstanding job in supporting families in need. I must say it's a group that I support because I regard their work as so valuable. So I think it will be very interesting to hear from Lynn about the work that the Smith family is doing, what the current challenges are, and I no doubt there are plenty of current challenges, and how they may best be assisted by the community. So I'll just give Lynn a chance to set up.
He's going to give you that back, isn't he?
Ask me to gently attach it to you.
Oh, yeah. Well, here comes another one. Jeez, wide for sound.
This is for posterity.
Yes,
Sure. Is that okay?
Sure. Thank you. Come on. Here we go. Right. Oh,
See, okay?
I can see okay, thank you. So, thank you everyone for having me today. I'm sorry about the stuff up with the booking, but these things happen, and obviously with Mick up in Cairns, it's a lot more important for him to be up there with the family, so all good. You can hear from two speakers today. I'm in year. I belong to View Clubs of Australia, which is part of the Smith family. I belong to the Greensborough View Club, and we meet at the Heidelberg Golf Club at Lower Plenty. Yes, that's right. View Clubs was started by the Smith family just over 60 years ago in Sydney, when women weren't allowed into Apex, Lions, Rotary, all those sorts of clubs. And the secretary of the Smith family in Sydney at the time, who was a fella, felt that women should have an opportunity to have a voice, so he started View Clubs in Sydney and New South Wales, and then we've been in Victoria just over 30 years. So it's a really good organisation around Australia-wide. I am a volunteer with the Smith family. I do these sorts of talks to Probuses, Apex, Lions, or Apex, do they still exist? I don't know. Lions clubs, schools, anyone who will listen to us. So we have about 10 of us who go around the state doing this, and I also volunteer at the office in Queen Street, Melbourne on a Friday, doing whatever's needed. And, you know, I think I really enjoy it because you know you're making a difference to people's lives. So that's what the Smith family is all about. But just before I start, I'd just like to share, we get a lot of things from children at Christmas time especially, or during the year, but this was one young lady's Christmas list. And her list was, I would like a book and my mum back so we can read it together, pens and colouring books for my little brothers, something fun to make my nana smile, and a magic potion to make me smarter so I can be good at school again. And that's sort of indicative, I suppose, of the things that kids think about. And we've all got different lives and dramas in our lives, but, you know, children that are on the Smith family program are there because their families are living in disadvantage. And it's not they didn't cause it, but that's the situation they're in. So I'll just tell you, Smith family turned 100 a couple of years ago, been around a long time. And as you'll see in the next slide, founded by 5 businessmen in 1922 in Sydney, and they were having a drink at Christmas and talking about what they were going to give their kids for Christmas. And so they went and did a bit of a research as to what sort of poverty was around Sydney, and they found it was quite a lot of poverty. So they went and bought some toys and took them to the Carlingford Boys' Home and distributed them out to the boys there. And the matron said to one of them, "What's your name?" so the children can say thank you. And he said, "My name's Smith." And the next one said, "My name's Smith," etc., etc. So that's how the Smith family started all those years ago. Then over the years we've changed. We did a lot of work during the Depression helping people, Cyclone Tracy, refugees. We had an office down in Collingwood, and it was set up. It had big fitting rooms in it. It had clothing. It had vouchers for electricity or food or whatever was needed. It was a handout place, if you like. And there would be queues out the front waiting to get in there for people coming in looking for whatever they needed in way of assistance. But it was the same peak families generation after generation coming in. It wasn't breaking that cycle. And so, you know, the families said we need to educate our children so as they can go to school, go to uni and have a proper life and be able to support themselves. So in the late 1980s, early 1990s, we changed our focus and now we focus completely on education. We don't have any welfare. If someone rings the Smith family, you know, wanting socks and jocks or whatever it is, we refer them to the relevant agency. But the Smith family is completely focused on helping children get their education. So this is who we are, a world where every child has the opportunity to change their future. And I think, you know, the little girl that I read you the thing about, she just wants to do good at school. And that's what it's all about in a lot of cases. But because they're not wearing the same uniform, or they don't have a school bag or a laptop or the school books, they don't have the ability to make those moves in life. To overcome educational inequality caused by poverty is our purpose, and that's what we work towards every day. And Nelson Mandela said education is one of the most powerful, he didn't use the word change agents, but he meant that. So, you know, it is critical that we educate children and give them a chance. Oops. So, as I said, we deliver long-term educational support because if you don't, this is the cycle of disadvantage and it just keeps going. You start off with low-income families, poor educational outcomes for children because the kids won't go to school because they've got no shoes or they haven't got the uniform or the books or whatever it is. Then they can't get a job when they get to that age, and then they have poorer life outcomes and the cycle just keeps going and going. And that's what we're all about breaking. Just a few stats, just let me have a look here. So, it's at the moment it's 1.2 million children and young people live in poverty around Australia. I think that's 1 in 6. And it's a bit frightening really. All live in low income families. More than half live in a single parent family, with 6% living with another relative or in foster care. It is really amazing how many grandparents are looking after their grandchildren and have their grandchildren living with them. Around 40% of students and 50% of their parents and carers have a health or disability issue. Around 60% have a parent or carer who didn't finish year 12. More than 70% of students have a parent or carer not in paid employment. And 1 in 5 students in years 5 to 12 have already attended more than 5 or 4 or more schools. 3 in 10 Learning for Life families or children do not have a computer or tablet connected to the internet. So if you think about what school means to a lot of kids now, they do need the internet, and without that, they really struggle. So this is what happens at each period of their life. You know, they start off, they're behind, they haven't been able to read books at home because there's no books. And there's no one there providing that role model and stimulation for them. So they just keep going, but it doesn't happen for them. So this is where we're trying to grab them very early and get them into the Learning for Life program, which I'll explain to you, and see them through their school years. So just a few stats there. 57% of Year 5 parents just 57% of Year 5 students whose parents have not completed Year 12 surpass the national numeracy standard for the year level. And then if the parents do have a uni qualification, it's 94%. So a huge difference there. The cost to the community for each early school leaver, so they're kids that are going to go on, I don't know what the latest Centrelink thing's called, but it's about, over their lifetime, it's about $1 million. So if you can get the children educated, around 49% of 24-year-olds from the most disadvantaged backgrounds are not fully engaged in work or study, compared to 18% of those from advantaged backgrounds. So what do we do about it? We've got this program called Learning for Life, and it's about helping children reach their potential. So it's 3 components. First of all, families get paid. This is going to fall off me. Here we go. Help! Thank you, that's better, it feels going to stay. So first of all, twice a year families are given a payment, once in January and the other one in June, and that's to enable them to buy school essentials. And when I'm working at the Smith family in January, families are ringing up saying, when's the payment coming? It's paid into their bank account because they need to go and buy shoes or stuff for the children to start the school year. So there's that payment twice a year. And then they have access to programs from early years to tertiary level, and I'll talk about them in a minute. And it's a relationship with the Family Partnership Coordinator. So it's not just about giving families money. Money on its own isn't the answer, they need support. The Family Partnership Coordinator, who is a Smith family employee, works with the families to make sure the children go to school in the morning. No one wants to sponsor children that are home in bed because they can't be bothered getting up, or mum and dad don't kick them out and give them breakfast and send them on their way to school. Or if there's something wrong at home and the kid doesn't want to go to school, well, we need to work around that and have the children going to school. So they're the 3 components of our Learning for Life program. So when families go onto the program, they sign an agreement. So it's not just about saying, we will provide you with this and you'll sit at home and do nothing. You will commit to sending your children to school. You'll provide a copy of the school report each year, and that shows the attendance, it shows how the child's doing. You'll work with us to make sure that the children maximise the use of the Learning for Life. They'll go to the extra programs that are available, etc. And the partnership is reviewed, I think, every few years, and they have to keep receipts for all the things that they buy. They used to send them in, but we'd get the mail each day and you'd open the mail and there'd be Kmart receipts and Officeworks and there'd be receipts all over the place. Now they have to keep them, and they're audited on a basis so as to make sure they don't spend it down the pub or at Liquorland or wherever, that it is being used for the children's education. This is how the funds are allocated. So the $478 a school student is up to year 9. And then after that, you can see senior school, and then we go on for uni students. So the $478 is paid to the parents in the case of the school students. The $394 goes towards paying for the Learning for Life coordinator and the programs. Up the end is $448. So this is all, we have sponsorships, which I'll talk to you about as I go through, but this is how the money is allocated to each child's education. And you can see tertiary students, you know, they get $3,000 a year. That really makes a difference to them being able to, quite a lot of them use it for transport to get to their uni because they haven't got any way of getting there, or obviously for their course notes, etc., etc. So, we've got a big strategy over the next 5 years. We currently have about 60,000, I'll come to that somewhere. We sponsor about 60,000 students at the moment, and we want to have that to 100,000 in the next, by 2027. So it's a lot of work happening, and we're working hard to achieve that. So the approach is working. The Smith family trials things. They don't just launch in and do it. They have a trial to make sure it's going to work, and then they implement it. So everything that we do is worked with. So here's, at the moment, we've got just over 60,000 on sponsorships across Australia. And there you'll see the breakdown of the students. About similar number of primary and secondary. There's about 1,700 tertiary. And then this one up here, the programs, is, I'll show you where the Smith family is located in a minute, but that shows if you are in a school or area where the Smith family is, you can also, students in that school can also participate in the programs like Let's Read and Let's Count. So other students benefit from it as well. So this is where we are, or how many places we've got around Australia. As you can see, we're nationwide. National office is in Sydney. Victorian office, head office is in Queen Street, just near Flinders Lane there. And in Victoria, this is where we are. So each of these offices has a couple, at least 2 Learning for Life coordinators who look after the families and the children. They have a program coordinator who looks after all the programs that run in the area. And they, quite often they're based in the schools in the area. And they work with the families in that area. I'll often go to places and they'll say, you know, and I'll use Greensborough because I live in Greensborough so I can pick on that. But, you know, someone might say, well, we live in Greensborough and we've got kids that need this. Why aren't you out in Greensborough? We can't be everywhere. It costs a lot of money to set up and maintain, and these places were chosen based on the research that's done for the most needy areas. The Frankston office, which is the latest one to open, it's been open 3 or 4 years now, was fortunately paid for by a philanthropist down in Frankston. He gave a few million to set up the office and to run it for, I'm not sure how long it is, but he's set it up and has provided some funds for ongoing running, so that was really fortunate. This was the problem, the glasses. Okay. Okay. So in Victoria, there's about 14,000 students across Victoria. So you can see there we partner with 117 schools. So in Frankston's, for instance, they have maybe the offices, I know which school it's in, I can see it, but I can't remember the name of it. And they would work in there and then they would draw the students from the schools in the area that they have a partnership with. You need to go to school in the area where the Smith family is, because as I said, it's not just about giving money, it's about having that support wrap around so as the children get all the benefits of the program. If you're just giving you money, it doesn't, you know, you might get new shoes, but it's not about teaching you to read, write, have access to all of the programs that we have. So these are the programs that we run. So in the early years, we have Let's Count and Let's Read. So they're run when the mums or dads or whoever takes the child to, they used to call them health centres in my day, I don't know what they're called now, early childhood, I don't know what they're called, but when you go to have the child weighed and all that sort of jazz, they have the Let's Read and the Let's Count programs. And so what's that about is there are many houses there don't have books for children to read in them. So the family is given a package that has some books inappropriate to the age of the child, and then I think it's every 6 or 9 months they're given an updated package and some guidelines, you know, like turn the tally off, let the child turn the page, sit the child on your knee, and we all know, you know, the kids used to say, read it again, Grandma, read it again, Grandma. So you go through all that with them, and it's a way, not teaching them how to read, but just getting them used to books. So as when they go to school, they know what a book is all about. And I guess for us, you think, well, you know, I had books at home, I was a bit of a bookworm, but there are many, many houses that don't have that. Let's Read is fairly similar, you know, how many red cars or how many orange apples and all those sorts of things that they teach them about. Then in primary years, we've got them learning clubs. There are many homes where parents just do not have the capability to help children with their homework. And at learning clubs that the children go to after school, they have computers. They have people there helping them with their maths or English or whatever homework it is that they've got to do. So as next morning when they go to school, they've got the tick, they've done their homework, they've used the computer, and they're the same as the other kids in the grade, which is what it's all about. Then we've got, in secondary years, we have things like iTrack. Year 9 students, they jump on the internet for about 14 weeks, I think, of a school term, and they're matched up with a mentor, a buddy, and they will chat on the keyboard, and we actually look at those conversations because they're not allowed to share their emails or their phone number or anything like that. They're done out of the school, it's part of their school program. And they start off and, you know, they tiptoe around a little bit at the start of it, but they get to know each other. They'll talk about what sports and, you know, what you want to do, etc. And then the mentor will get down to the nitty-gritty and ask about what subjects they might like to do or what they like to do with when they leave school or university. So the mentor will Google all sorts of links for them and send them links on maybe some appropriate training they could do or some courses that they might like to do, or just help guide them in the right direction. And when I've been checking them in at the office, they're really good because it just opens the child's eyes to what's available, because as I said, at home they may have a parent who has no idea where to even start if they're looking for, you know, if they want to become a vet or something like that. Some people just do not know where to start. So the iTrack program is really successful there. After school and they go to uni, they have what's called a tertiary mentor, And this is a person, so if I said I want to be a vet, I would be matched up with that vet, and we would actually meet, and I would know who that vet was, and they would help me. They might organise some work experience. They would certainly help me with what courses and my bookwork and all that sort of stuff. So that's a relationship that goes on through the tertiary years. And when the student graduates, the mentor usually goes to the graduation ceremony, and it's a great moment for both of them. The mentor is really proud that they've had some contribution in the child's life and their graduation, along with mum and dad, who's usually there crying because the student's the first one in their family to have gone to university. Another one we've got is cadetship to careers. We're very fortunate to have a number of companies who provide cadetships for students, and it's really helpful for them to go and have a try out at these businesses to make sure that's really what they want to do. So this was just after COVID. I think during COVID the Smith family did really well. It was acknowledged how important it was for the children to continue their education, but they weren't going to school, and as I mentioned, a lot of them didn't have internet or that. We had a lady in Shepparton who had a mobile phone with a cracked screen and 5 children at school. How was she going to do? How are they going to do their schoolwork? So they were kitted out with computers and that, as were a lot of other students. It was a nightmare trying to get the services to them. As well as the equipment, we had to get the internet to them as well. So I think it was Suncorp propped up the money to give them internet access as well. So it was a very big couple of years there. Yeah, so at the moment we've got about 210, maybe a few more sponsors. Our View Club, for instance, sponsors 7 or 8 children. It's really great. You get them in primary school, and then we correspond with each other all the way through their school life, and you can see the improvement with them, and they just think it's terrific that someone that they don't know, that they'll never meet, has taken an interest in them, that cares about them, that sends them a birthday voucher or a Christmas voucher, and just supports and encourages them along the way. We have lots of good partners. We wouldn't be able to survive without all these people, and they do a variety of things. You know, Officeworks, you'll have seen the Back to School campaign. ANZ has the Saver Plus program, which is where families can save up to $500 in a period, I think it's 8 or 10 months, and then the ANZ Bank will match that, and they have to use it for education-related expenses. And that's been a really good tool for people, and you hear a lot of parents say we still have that saving habit. So it's about creating that habit, and then they got the funds matched for them. A lot of these would provide work experiences, facilities for the children, a whole range of things. They might fund one of the programs, etc., etc. There's lots of volunteers in the Smith family. In fact, I think there's more than that now. There is more than that now, but the Smith family couldn't survive. I think it has about 1,000 employees Australia-wide, and it has a lot more volunteers, so we do all sorts of things. Eric here, I'll just quickly, am I going all right for time? Eric's story, just quickly. My family came to Australia from El Salvador in 1992. My parents left everything to give us better opportunities. When we arrived, we didn't have much. I was supported by the Smith family throughout my entire schooling. They provided assistance for uniforms, excursions and books. What the Smith family did for my family was incredible. When I finished school in 2005, support from the Smith family ended. I became a financial supporter because I was just so grateful. I put my hand up for any volunteering assistance they needed, and I became part of the iTrack mentoring program. And now I'm part of a group of former students who speak to fundraising partners, youth clubs and schools. The Smith family set an example for me to help others. Their donors and financial supporters don't have to do that, but they do. That example made it so much easier for me to do the iTrack program. It feels good to give back, but also to know that maybe someone else will feel the same way as I do, and maybe they are able to help assist 10 times as much as I can. I'm a big believer in education. Because the Smith family supported my brothers and I to get through school, none of us now need that support. They've allowed us to break that cycle needing the Smith family. All the Smith family donations and volunteering do actually make a difference in Australians' lives. I know Eric, he's a great guy, and I have to admit the first time I heard his story I was crying my eyes out, but he's now got a successful business, a couple of kids, and he's just so proud of where he's got as a family. Youth clubs, as I mentioned, we sponsor now, I think it's about 1,700 students Australia-wide, and youth club members do lots of work in the community. I'm not going to read all these, but you know, we hear really good feedback from the parents when they tell us what a difference the equaling the child, if you like, in the school makes to them. Yeah, usually it's about the lifting them up that makes a difference, and just giving them that confidence. So let's create a world where every child has the opportunity to change their future. That's what we're about. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions for Lynn about the Smith family?
You mentioned you had, what percent of Indigenous Australian?
Oh, yes, I can tell you that if you give me one moment. There's quite a big Indigenous community down at Bairnsdale.
I think it might have been something like 20% overall.
Yeah, I think it probably is something like that.
How can that be? You have to have a slightly different approach when you've got an Indigenous group than, say, another way.
So just let me explain a different approach there. I can get the number for you after, but down at Bairnsdale, just talking about that different approach, they have what's called Girls at the Centre. That's a room in the Bairnsdale Secondary College, and it's set up with a microwave and tea and coffee and all that jazz, and I forget what else is there, but things that young students need, but they're not allowed to go in there unless they go to school. It's a bit like they have the similar program where the boys over in Western Australia aren't allowed to play football unless they go to school. So their attendance rate has to be, I don't know, 95 or whatever it is. And they go there, they go to school, and then they go and have their coffee and chat and all that jazz. The ladies at the Bairnsdale Youth Club support those students at that school, the girls. They provide a lot of sanitary products, female products, you know, deodorants, makeup, hair stuff, whatever. And so all of that package helps the children stay at school. And that's the sort of things, and every area, you're right, is different cultures, you know, out west, right out west, there's a different sort of culture, so you have to adapt to whatever area you're working in.
Any other questions, guys? Okay, Lynn, thank you. I think what Lynn's saying to us is that this is an important community organisation, supporting our young people, and we should support it. We might not be up to volunteering at our stage of life, but if we're not up to volunteering, we might be able to write out a cheque occasionally.
Thank you, that'd be lovely and much appreciated. There is a lady who volunteers at the Smith family with me. She's 90 next year. She's been volunteering at the Smith family for 29 years.
That's right.
No, so it's good. I've got some brochures here which I'll put out. You can help yourself to after.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you. Really?
That's your computer.
I just hear the gentleman say he had no idea. I guess a lot of people still think we provided socks and jocks and all that sort of thing, but don't do that anymore. And yeah, very important.
It's all about education.
It is. Thank you.
On the net. Just need a microphone. No, I think we're right. Okay. We'll just get organised.
Okay, short pause.
Short pause. Short pause.
I'm not staying much. Sorry. Somewhere else.
We might just put some lights on because we won't have a visual presentation.
Yeah, I'll do that.
I'll get your mic down.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Olga, can you help me with the notes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we need to.
You talk pretty loudly.
No, but we're streaming this.
Yeah.
If you could just sort of stand more or less with us in the background, if you don't mind. The camera is picking up basically all the white screen, so if you don't mind standing. Do you
What are you doing?
We'll just get the microphone. So we'll, you want to make it fairly interactive?
Yeah, that's what I do. It's Q&A pretty much. I'll sort of do a quick overview of the HK services and then also if anyone has any questions. I think that's the best way it works because otherwise it gets a bit boring if I just talk for half an hour on HK.
Can we mic Olga up?
You're Olga.
Yes, I am.
Olga Lances.
That's it.
My job is to make sure this goes.
No, fair enough. Good on you.
Speak a bit.
Hello?
Olga's doing a little audio testing here.
Hello?
It's good.
Hello?
That's magnificent.
Wonderful, thank you.
I can just put that on.
And the other thing you have is
Because Olga will
have something
move out the front here.
Perfect.
Yeah, you can't go.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Get some of these
Guys, we'll proceed now with Olga's presentation. I'll introduce Olga Lamsis, who's a relationship specialist in aged care. She's not going to do a visual presentation. She's going to give some background and then she'd like to make it interactive in terms of questions and answers. And my understanding really is what she wants to talk about are the facts and the myths that relate to aged care and what the situation is in the community. Now, I don't want to be too sensitive about this, but it is an area that is of somewhat relevance to us, bearing in mind where we stand with this particular group. I say to my grandchildren, they sort of talk to me sometime, we talk about what stage of life you're at, and I'll say, listen, let's talk in football terms. We're into the fourth quarter, and even worse than that, we're into time on, and the real question is, how much time on are we losing? So, Olga, we are pretty much in the time on area, and we'll be very interested to hear what you've got to tell us, and perhaps get some to and fro going with our members on some of these things.
Thank you, David.
Over to you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name's Olga. Happy New Year to everybody. I'm a relationship specialist in aged care. I've been working in the industry for about 10 years, which has significantly changed in terms of the Royal Commission and the outcomes that came out pre-COVID and post-COVID. What I was going to do was just give a quick overview about aged care services in Australia, what you are entitled to, how they work in terms of funding, and then throw it out. If you have any questions as I'm speaking, just raise your hand, because I normally get a lot of questions about the finances and how that works and who gets what money and so forth and what services you're entitled to. And how that works internally in the homes as well, because they have significantly changed. All right. So there are 3 levels of aged care services available. One is called CHISP services, or community health services, which are normally through your local councils. So a number of you may already have engaged in those services, where you might get a cleaner that comes out every fortnight, or somebody that does some gardening for you. That's the first level of entry. The second level of entry is home care services. So when your independence becomes a little bit less and you need a little bit more support in your home, you can actually get an aged care assessment done, which will outline your independence level, your emotion, your care needs, any other needs that you perhaps need in terms of your well-being. They will then access a certain care package according to that level of independence that you have, and the government will give you a funding per annum to utilise on the services. So there's 4 level packages in the home care system. It is a 12 to 18 month wait for home care around Australia. So if you have not had an aged care assessment done as yet, I'll talk to you about how you can get an aged care assessment done, because it might not be that you need it now, but I always say to people, you have to be proactive in your well-being. When it's too late and you've had a fall and you've got no choice and you're stuck in hospital and they place you in a home that you don't want to be at, it's at your disadvantage. So it's best for you to have the control about where you want to go and how you manage your care and support services in the future. Ongoing from that, once you get your home care package, if your independence does decline a little bit, maybe cognitively, so you might have a bit of short-term memory loss and start forgetting things, or you're at home alone and you've got a couple of steps in your house and you don't have the support to actually get in and out of your home, aged care might be a good step in to come and try as a respite resident. Respite is day care, night care. It's inclusive of your meals, your cleaning, your medication management. You've got nurses 24 hours a day on site. You can do from 1 week to 7 weeks of respite in residential aged care. And if you have an aged care assessment, it's subsidised by the government. So if you're an unfunded person, so that means you don't have an aged care assessment, you can actually book in respite in any aged care home. But the fees are quite significant, so they're between $280 and $400 a day. If you have an aged care assessment, it's $60 a day. So it's subsidised heavily by the government, so that's why I encourage everybody to get an aged care assessment done. So you've got that in your back pocket, just in case you do need those services in the future. How it works when somebody moves in permanently to residential aged care is dependent on two things. The first thing is their cognitive and their physical abilities. So that will determine where in the actual aged care home they will be placed. If somebody has cognition decline or behaviours, they have to be in a secure area because it's intrusive to the other residents. So if you hear about people going into a dementia-specific or a memory support unit, that means that these individuals have perhaps Alzheimer's or Lewy body dementia that actually affects their inhibitions. So they may be intrusive into other people's rooms, or they may swear uncontrollably or just speak their mind without any control. So why they are situated in a smaller unit is because we have central nurses there and carers that get to know those people on a personal level, and they have really good relationships so that they can then look after them and manage their behaviours better. Other than that, if you are just perhaps needing some support physically, so you might have had a fall and you need your hip replaced and you come into care and then you think, you know, I really like it in here, I've got my meals per day, I've got medication managed by someone else, I don't have to clean, I don't have to cook, I don't have to do anything else. Depending on your financial position is what level of payment you will pay. So as an example, if we have somebody who is a renter, so they don't have an asset, they don't have a home, and they only have under $58,000 in the bank, they're deemed fully supported or low means. So they will come into residential aged care and they will only pay the basic daily care fee, which is that $60.86 per day. If somebody has income and assets between $58,000 and $192,000, they're deemed a partially supported resident. So the government will then allocate a funding level appropriate to what income and assets that person has. So they may pay the $60 a day, plus the government might say you have to contribute $20 a day, and then the government will subsidise the rest of the payment. If somebody owns a property and there's no dependents living in that home, or they have income and assets over $192,000, they are deemed to be RAD payers or self-funded, which means that you will need to contribute the full amount of the cost of the room, which is called the refundable accommodation deposit, or RAD. That used to be called a bond many years ago. So that's the same principle as a bond. If you're renting an apartment and you put down your $2,000 bond and you get that back when you leave. Exactly the same for residential aged care. If you can afford a RAD and the room is $500,000, you sell your home to move in, you put the $500,000 RAD down. When you discharge, whether you leave or you pass away, that money will go back to the estate or yourself. So you nominate who you want to put that money towards. You cannot ever lose your RAD deposit because it is government protected. So if the aged care home does go into liquidation or close down, the government will still pay back all the RADs in that home. Right, that's pretty much a quick summary. So I'll throw it out to the floor because I'm sure that some of you may have some questions or have thought about, I can't afford it, or how does it work, what do I need to do? So please raise your hand and ask away.
How do you apply for an aged care assessment?
Thank you. So there's two ways you can apply for an aged care assessment. The first way is to call My Aged Care over the phone. I've got some brochures up the back there as well. You call them, they will ask you questions about your independence level. Then they have a scale. If you hit an independence level that they can say, yes, you are entitled to an aged care assessment, they will call the aged care team that's local to your area. So I think it's Heidelberg around here, which is at the Royal Melbourne Hospital. They'll actually come to your home and they'll do an interview with you, and then they'll do the assessment, so you'll get that. The second way you can do it is through your GP. It does take a little bit longer through your GP, depending on how proactive they are. So you can do it through your general practitioner by asking them to lodge a request for an aged care assessment for you. And they take about 6 to 12 weeks. The other way you can get one, sorry I forgot, if you have an emergency at home and you don't have anyone to care for you, you can come into residential aged care as an emergency respite resident, and we can then organise the aged care assessment whilst you're in respite in the home. And that takes 5 days.
You mentioned the RAD assessment, and
Yes.
you mentioned $500,000, for example, that
Yes.
you pay and get back at the end. What do you do on a weekly basis or pay on an ongoing
Yep.
basis?
So if you only pay the basic daily care fee, so everybody in Australia pays the basic daily care fee, which is a government level of funding. So it increases twice a year in alignment with the full pension. So at the moment it's $60.86 per day. If your room is $500,000 and you pay that RAD in full, you don't pay any other fees except for the basic daily care fee. You can also only pay $100,000 on your RAD, and the balance, which is that $400,000, you can pay as an interest rate per day as well. So there's a lot of different combinations of how you can actually pay if you have the means to actually pay for your residential aged care.
Do you lose any of the money when you on the RAD at all? You don't lose.
You never lose any money unless you want to discount the basic daily care fee from your RAD. So you can choose many options. Some homes also have additional service fees. What's happening in the industry at the moment is that people that are coming through are wanting more out of their day. So we've offered, or a lot of aged care providers have offered additional services. So an example of that would be in the Aged Care Act, residential aged care homes need to provide 3 meals a day. Some homes now provide 5 to 7 meals a day. They have beer and wine at lunch and dinner. They have cooked breakfast options. So there's more choice available, and they may charge you an extra $10 a day for that option as an example. So that would be one. The other thing that they also do is offer additional services: beauty therapy, aromatherapy, massage, internally in the homes. They may have clubs where you pay and then you get external visitors to come in for social activities or excursions out. So there's a whole range of different additional services now that are coming across in aged care, because people have different care needs. It's not only about physical and mental, it's about social, it's about cultural. It's whatever you need to get the best quality of the last years of your life, basically.
Yeah, so Olga, I've got a close friend who's actually, you're probably familiar, who's in a Regis facility.
Mm-hmm.
You've got you pay
the RAD.
RAD. And my understanding is that the provider of the accommodation generates income from interest or whatever on the RAD.
Yes.
So, but where he is, and I must say, the standard of care is excellent. But there are things like physiotherapy. They have entertainment come in. Various other things like that. Now, my understanding is that you pay some extra for those things. Is that right? Is
Correct.
that the way it works?
Physiotherapy is actually covered because it's an allied health service.
Okay.
So when you move into residential aged care as a permanent resident, allied health services are inclusive. So they'll create a care plan based on your needs. And if you need physiotherapy once or twice a week, that's actually incorporated in your care plan. So an example would be somebody who has Parkinson's, they may need speech therapy twice a week, so they'll get that incorporated into their care plan.
And also they arrange for a GP to visit.
Yeah, correct. So most homes...
Dentist, is that?
Dentist as well, yeah. So almost every service, medical service, can come into an aged care home. Dentist and optometry is still covered by Medicare when you move into aged care, so it's not actually covered. So you'll still need to pay for your dentistry or glasses, but it's obviously discounted at the rates. With the additional service fees, it's outside of the clinical component. So it's predominantly social, or it could be As an example, we get Dementia Australia to come into the home twice a month and do talks with residents and their families on how to have better visits with people who have cognitive decline. So you don't just go and visit them and stare at each other. So there's some interaction there. So that would be an example of something additional. But the RADs, all aged care providers use the interest from the RADs to build new homes, because we know that there's 3 million Australians over the age of 75 at the moment who are probably going to need residential aged care within the next 5 years, which is a huge number, and there's not enough aged care homes to support that.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. What's the accessibility like at the moment?
Look, at the moment, it's actually quite good. The reason being, and I'm not going to be morbid, but we've found that after COVID, we do have a shorter lifespan when somebody moves into residential aged care. So pre-COVID, if somebody moved into care, the estimated length of life would be about 3 years. It's reduced to about 18 months at the moment, so it's decreased significantly. Unfortunately, that is based on a number of reasons. The first being that people aren't coming into aged care when they're independent or fairly independent. They're coming in at crisis point when they already have many ailments. So that's one thing. We don't know if COVID has affected, or the COVID vaccinations have affected people as well. So we do find that there are more people passing away in residential aged care after they have the booster shots, or we have COVID or influenza or gastro that come through the home, because the immune systems aren't as strong as they were 5 years ago.
This may be a silly question, but is all residential aged care privately operated?
No, it's not. So we've got not-for-profits and we've got privately owned. I've worked at Back to Care and at Regis, so a not-for-profit and a private provider. Not-for-profits have a lot more funding from the government. They operate very similarly, but private aged care providers will spend more money internally in processes and how they operate, because it's a pay-a-user service. So it's almost like going to a motel for the night and going to a 5-star hotel. So you have to be comparative on what your environment, what you want out of your experience. Some people are quite content just having your room and, living simply. Others want to have their hair done twice a week and their nails done whilst they're in aged care and go out on the bus for, outings. So it depends on your personality, your cultural needs, your social needs. That's why I say have a look, plan to see what is around your area, just in case you do have an accident or you need to access residential care. It's not frightening, let me tell you. It's probably the best that it's ever been. Back when I started, they were still giving people kerosene baths. That was only 10 years ago. So it's come a long way from then to what it is now. It's a very different playing field. Another thing I'll also mention is that if anyone says to you about staff ratios, because that's something that always we get asked for residential aged care, one of the outcomes of the Royal Commission was they actually eliminated staff ratios. So what that means is that there was one carer looking after 6 residents. What they do now is every single person in aged care gets 200 minutes per day of all care. So that may be assistance with feeding, it might be nursing, it might be personal care, it might be social care. So they get 200 minutes per day. We have to actually log that every day and we submit it to the government on a monthly basis, so they can actually see that everyone in aged care is getting an equal amount of care per day. Yes?
Olga, seems to be so many different options and choices from a person who is new to that type of thing. The options would be overwhelming.
Yes.
Is there kind of like a questionnaire or an industry set up to help people shortlist their needs?
Yes, there is. So there's different ways you can do that. that is my job, so you can come to me. The other thing that you can do is you can go through the Care Finder process. But the Care Finder program is a new government program that they've just released probably in the last 3 months, so it's quite fresh. From my experience, they're not very knowledgeable, so I wouldn't go that path just yet. You can jump on My Aged Care if you have access to the internet, and you can actually key in the suburb that you're looking for, and it will list all the aged care providers, and it will give you information on their accreditation and their achievements. So all the standards that the government has set that we actually lodge each month, they're recorded on the My Aged Care system. The third option is that you pay a placement agency to help you find somewhere. There are placement agencies that don't charge the clients, but they on-charge the aged care home when the placement is made. Some take the money directly from the client. So they're the three options. Every aged care provider has an admissions coordinator or somebody in the home that can help you, but they'll be selling or discussing just that specific home. Yeah, just.
Thank you. Excuse me.
Yes.
Can you clarify how you work?
Yep.
And who you work for?
Yes, so I work for Regis. So in my role as a relationship specialist, I actually go out to the community and talk about aged care services, and I also support people transitioning into aged care. I am a counsellor as well, specifically around loss, grief and loss. It could be the grief and loss of losing your independence, the grief and loss of losing your home that you've worked so many years to build up, or the grief and loss of a partner or a loved one. And how that affects people moving into aged care. I try and help them to make that as seamless and as pleasant as possible.
So if we came to see you, for example, you wouldn't feel obliged just to recommend Regis?
Absolutely not. For me, my philosophy is that if you're entering the last stages of your life, you need to be in an environment where you feel safe, happy, and independent, as independent as you can be. If somebody comes to me and I know they're not going to fit into say, Regis Faulkner, which is predominantly European, I will say, look, I don't know if socially or culturally this is the right fit for you. So I will say, hey, we've got a Bupa up the road, or we've got Estia around the corner. Go and have a look at those homes as well. Some homes have a fantastic energy when you walk in them, some don't. They might look great, but they might not have energy in the home, and that might not be what you're looking for. So having the aged care industry is very incestuous in a way, because we all have worked across different providers, so we all know each other quite well. So if you came to me and said, this is what I'm looking for, and I couldn't help you, I'd ring up my girlfriend at Estia and say, hey, I've got Bob, he's looking for this, can you help him? So I don't have any qualms. As long as you get the services and the environment that you need, I'm fine with that.
Thank you.
Yes.
What percentage of aged care is provided by not-for-profit?
At the moment, I'd probably say about 60-40 the split would be. There's more not-for-profit providers than there is private. A lot of private providers get bought out because it is very difficult to make a profit in aged care at the moment. So a lot of the smaller providers have been bought out by larger companies.
The level of care, that would vary from place to place in terms, I mean, you may have someone with acute dementia, for example. There might only be certain places that can take a resident with that problem.
Yes.
And with some places cover the whole range.
Correct.
Yeah.
So previously in aged care, there was high care and low care. There was only two categories of care. They removed that now. It's called ageing in place now. So every person that comes into aged care for respite or permanent is assessed based on their individual care needs. If we see somebody that perhaps, I'll give you an example, when we read the aged care assessment, the clinical team will have a look. if we can see that somebody has Lewy body's dementia, and I'm using this purely as an example, we know that progressively that person may become aggressive or physically violent because that's part of that disease. So we'll have that conversation with the family and we'll say we can support them, but we will manage that. And when it gets to the point where we can't manage that in the home, then we help that family find another aged care provider that can help that person, has more strategic and specific nursing and care. There are aged care, older persons, mental health care homes, so that would be a place where that person would be likely to transition into. If somebody has Parkinson's or any other illness, they can all be managed in a residential aged care home. It's mostly the aggression, the physical and the verbal aggression that has to be then removed for the safety of the carers, because we don't want the carers to get hurt, and also the safety of other residents as well, because that person might involuntarily just push another resident to the floor because that's part of their illness. Yeah.
I am a aged care resident.
Yes.
I'm a Blue Cross in
Oh yes, great.
What you said about aged care is perfectly true. I came to Ivanhoe on a temporary basis or waiting for another facility to open. 6 months after I moved into Blue Cross, my wife passed away, which left me a decision. Do I stay in this area, which I do not know, or do I move somewhere else? This was prior to COVID. I've made so many friends, I decided to stay. I talked to my family about it. My family live right out on the eastern suburbs, Pakenham, that way, and also one in Wangaratta. They're agreeable for me to stay here. So I'm quite happy living where I am. I've made friends, I've joined this club, which I didn't know existed when I came. And a lot of things have happened in aged care. COVID was the biggest hit of the lot.
Yes.
Where we were actually isolated for 14 days at a time in our rooms, not seeing another visitor on his staff.
We only got rid of masks at the end of last year. We haven't seen people's faces for 3 years almost.
We suggested that all the staff line up so we could recognise the face.
Well, that's exactly what we did. We actually did introductions when we got rid of our masks because people didn't know who we were.
It's unbelievable.
Isn't that bizarre? Yeah. Yes.
The not-for-profit groups, I take it they're all maybe church-based, are they?
Most of them are. Yeah, Anglicare, Baptist Care. Yes, it's definitely how they operate. Yeah, I don't think, unless they're a charity like RSL, they've got one of the RSL homes is not-for-profit as well, but mostly they are religious-based organisations. Yes. Not to say that they preach religion in there. It is just how they started back, 100 years ago or however long they've been going. Yes. Any more questions? Surely you've got to have something else that you need to ask me. Come on. You can ask me anything. I've heard it all before. Actually, yes.
Yeah, I've been in aged care for nearly a year.
Yes.
I'm with the Mineral group, but they're quite good. They look after
Yes, they are.
Now, one of the problems I've had is communicating with organisations like banks, Medicare. Now, I tried to contact Medicare to change my details. I tried to ring them up, no go. And eventually I found there was an app on my phone that I was able to do it by. And it's the same everywhere. To try and contact your bank, you can't ring them up. You have to go for the app.
Yes.
And unless you know that, you're in trouble.
Correct. So there's a big move going towards technology across all sectors.
So, I had this problem of getting in touch with people. The other one, I have a share portfolio. I had to let the various companies in the portfolio know my new address. I had enormous trouble doing this. Yes. I finally managed to do it for my broker, but it wasn't easy.
No.
I'm a reasonably intelligent person, but I just wonder how people get on who don't have any intelligence. It must be very hard for them.
So there's a couple of ways that we get around that. The first thing I would say to you is that the person in your home that manages your social support or lifestyle team, they probably should have helped you a little bit more in that aspect when you came in, because they would have or should have had that discussion with you if you didn't have anyone else that could help. The second thing is that if somebody comes into care and perhaps they're not comfortable with their finances or they do need some support, state trustees can manage your financial situation for you. They do charge a small commission based on how much money you do have, but they're generally quite active and quite good. So that would be what I would suggest if you don't have any family support or anybody that you can rely on to utilise state trustees as your financial advisors who can manage your finances.
Problems out.
Correct.
Actually, thanks to my son who was very helpful.
Yeah.
But if I hadn't had him, I would have been in real trouble.
Absolutely. And that's why I'm saying your social support or lifestyle team in the home should have been the people that should have connected you.
I don't even know who they are.
Really? Okay. Well, I'd ask when I get back today, find out who they are.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, can I say, just on that point?
Yes.
Coming back to my friend.
Yes.
It's cognitively is good and is pretty good with technology, but from time to time, something goes wrong with his computer, or he can't log in, or whatever. And the feedback I've had from him is that there's always someone on the staff who can rectify the problem.
Absolutely.
And get him going again with his computer, or if he's trying to stream something off YouTube or whatever,
yeah.
There's a problem. There'll be someone on the staff who's able to fix that, and that's pretty important. I mean, he's in a situation because he's got Parkinson's, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But he's basically confined in his room.
That's right.
So having things work like his computer and his streaming service, etc., is absolutely essential.
Correct.
But he has had good support from, and it's not necessarily one person. Generally speaking, the staff, from what I've been able to gain, are pretty across what needs to be done.
Absolutely. So on that, I'll just give you a bit of insight into how we operate if somebody moves in. So when somebody moves into residential care, in the first 28 days, it's basically monitoring that person's day. How many times you go to the toilet, what you're eating and drinking, what times you're sleeping, if you're getting up in the middle of the night, etc., etc. The nurses create a care plan. That care plan goes into a central system. Every single interaction we then have with that person gets noted, so that all the staff that come in, they can open that person's file and they can actually read what had happened the day before. And in the morning, they actually have meetings every day to discuss residents. So if it was for your friend that needed support with that computer, they'd say, oh, can somebody go check Bob today because his computer wasn't working too well. So we have to be very mindful of every person's needs, not only, as I said, physical or clinical, it's about living your best independence every day. And that's why it's very important when you do move in to make sure that you actually know who's who, find out your manager's name of the home, your clinical person, your lifestyle person, even the chef. We have many people that complain about food because food is something that everybody enjoys, and if something's not right, the chef gets all the complaints. He's quite happy to listen to them, and he'll make sure that tomorrow he does a better job. It's about what everybody needs to be independent and happy that day. And that's all we can do. We can only work each day as it comes. So, yeah. Yes?
Silly question.
No silly questions.
You've said several times if we have questions we should contact you, but I don't know who you work for or what your full name is or how to contact you.
Yes, I'll give you those details.
Have you got a card?
Yes, I do. So my name is Olga. I work at Regis Aged Care and I'm a relationship specialist.
Yes, I understood that. If I went home and wanted to call.
Oh, I've got some brochures up the back, so I'll definitely give you my details and you can
There's
definitely.
one other thing.
Yes.
You also said that if we wanted an aged care assessment, we would contact someone.
Yes.
Who I don't know.
My aged care team or your GP.
And it would take up to 15 months.
No, that's for home care. Yeah, for an aged care assessment, the wait list is between 6 to 12 weeks, depending on where you live.
Weeks, not months.
Yes.
Sorry.
That's okay.
And there's a possibility, I suppose, that they may turn up and do an assessment and say you don't need anything.
No, that won't happen. When you actually call my aged care or you visit your GP, they have a list of questions and they will identify, there's different markers that they identify, and that's how they scale it so that they know that you do need an aged care assessment. So if you're fairly independent, you won't need one. But it's good to know the process just in case your situation changes and then you do need to.
I have a wife who's seriously independent.
Yeah.
But I'd like the card anyway, thank you.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Well,
I'm going to stay for lunch anyway, so you can continue asking me questions if you like, one-on-one. I've got no problems with that. Yes.
Olga, thank you. Thank you. It's a subject we probably don't really want to talk about, but we have to. We have to. So
it's always better to be proactive.
No. That was very helpful to get that information, and because there are, I think, still a lot of myths out there about aged care, and it's important to know the facts and where to go to.
That's right.
So.
Oh, thank you. You
thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. All right, guys. Well, what are we going for? What's lunch, Gaz? About 10 minutes or so?
About 10 minutes or so.
Should be someone up shortly to man the bar or womanise the bar or whatever. Barbecue.
Yep.
23rd. 23rd.
Please
Gary wants the money. Gary wants the money.
There's a few not here today that are coming, apparently, and they haven't paid me.
Oh, well, they better get the money into the account.
Yeah, that's right. They better pay first.
Shame. They haven't paid Gary. We can't have that. All right. Well, the barbecue should be great. And the important thing about being at Springfield is that someone like me is not going to pass out as a result of the heat and then get followed back home by our learned undertaker.
It's not here today.
So it'll be good at Springthorpe.
Yeah, no worries. It's everything's organised.
And I think our next meeting is 13th of February, I think. Anyway.
Yeah, I think
second Tuesday in February. I'm not sure who'll be guest speaker because we've run two today, but the powers that be will sort that out. And great to see you all. 2024. Not sure who's going to win the premiership, but I think it'll be a good year.
Thanks for today, David. See you. Yeah, sure, I will. About 12 o'clock.
So I lost the plot about paying for lunch and all that.
I haven't organised, it's not completely organised yet, but I think from next time we will find that we can they'll pay for it.
So what's the story today?
Today, if you've got your name on the list, your lunch will be coming up soon. And you can pay a bill. Okay, Jeff? No worries.
Do you know whether I was paid, mate?
What for?
The Springfield.
It's over on the list though.
Oh, yes. Thank you. That is exactly where it should go.
Yeah, I know. There's possibly thinking about it is.
Yeah, we're going to explore it. Yeah.
You may have no relation to me. Who will be very interested in coming.
Yep.
Because she's heard you on the grapevine, not from me. But I don't know, it's a possibility.
Yeah, well, we're certainly now working through the process as to make this stage no decision being made, but there's a process that we have to follow. So why don't you go and come on back so you can get a bit of an idea of what's about. Yeah, but this process will take a bit of time, and where it finishes up, it'll be up to the members. But there's been sufficient indication of interest in it that we'll explore. Well,